Hello.
Okay. The Gemara of Bava Batra on Daf 10 Amud Bet. So we're in the third of a series of three statements about Rabbi Elazar. And in general, we're in the middle of a sugya about tzedakah in the beginning of Bava Batra. So as we just said, I think we'll skip next week for Rosh Hashanah, and then during the Seder Dmei Tshuva we'll pick up, and actually the next shiur, during the Seder Dmei Tshuva, we'll talk about the idea of tzedakah during the Mimnorim, just as a convenient, like a coincidental inyan idioma, right? Tshuva tefillah tzedakah, ma'avirin maror gzeira.
I have a question.
Who would have thought?
On Rosh Hashanah, what time would I need to go to sleep?
Okay, we'll talk about it after, okay? But this week what we'll be discussing is actually not tzedakah itself, but we'll just use the teaching of Rabbi Elazar as a springboard to a broader topic. And this broader topic will be looking at a few different midrashim which deal with two angels whose names are Af and Chema. Okay? They come up all over Shas, and essentially what we'll try to do is see the discrepancies between the different midrashim, try to see how some of the mefarshim struggle with it, and at the end kind of put it all together and try to suggest an answer to a question that Tosfot is bothered by, a potential answer, and see if it makes sense, and it might not, so we need to talk about it as a group, because I think it makes sense, but it'd be good to kind of hash it out. Okay, so let's begin. So the third statement in Bava Batra is Amar Rabbi Elazar, Gdol, העושה tzedakah בסתר יותר ממשה Rabbeinu. Okay, so three statements about tzedakah. The third one is someone who gives tzedakah in secret, not in a public way, but kind of privately, is greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. Quite a statement. דאילו במשה רבינו כתיב, כי יגור אותי מפני האף והחמה. So when Moshe Rabbeinu is recounting the episode of Chet HaEgel, in Sefer Dvarim, he talks about Bnei Yisrael. They worshipped the idol, and then when he is trying to ask Hashem for forgiveness on Bnei Yisrael's behalf, he describes how he was afraid of Hashem's anger at the time, and he says, Ki agorti, I was terrified, mipnei ha'af v'chema, the anger and the terror. Okay, so Pshat is that these are just the anger and the terror of Hashem, in the sense that Hashem was very wrathful at that moment. Okay, but we'll see that the Midrashim interpret Af and Chema as names of angels. We'll see that shortly. V'ilu b'oseh tzedakah k'tiv, when it comes to someone who gives tzedakah, it says, Matan בסתר, Mishle, Matan בסתר יחפה אף, ושוחד בחלק חמה עזה. So someone who gives a gift secretly, he overcomes af, anger, and someone who gives a bribe or a present, probably a present because it's a positive thing, in the bosom overcomes, strong wrath. Okay, so the Mefarshim talk a lot about what this means, and it's not in scope for tonight, but the simplest understanding is Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid of Af and Chema, whereas someone who gives tzedakah, it overcomes Af and Chema. So that's how I know that someone who gives tzedakah, in secrecy, is greater than Moshe Rabbeinu, because Moshe Rabbeinu is afraid of these things, whereas someone who gives tzedakah secretly overcomes those things. Okay? And then the Gemara just finishes, Upliga de Rabbi Yitzchak, Dam Rabbi Yitzchak, Af kofeh, Chema eno kofeh. So someone who gives tzedakah privately, he's able to overcome anger, but not wrath. Chema is stronger than Af. Shneamar v'shochad b'chek chama azah, which he interprets to mean Af al pi sheshochad b'chek chama azah. Even if you have a present in the chest or in the bosom, there is vengeful wrath. No, you're not able to overcome it. He reads the pasuk the opposite of Rabbi Elazar. Ika da'amri, some say Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, kol dayan shenotel shochad mevi chama azah leolam shneamar v'shochad b'chek chama azah. Another teaching on this idea, a judge who takes a bribe, he brings strong wrath into the world. Okay? So, again, for our purposes, what we're going to be focused on is the idea that Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid of Af and Chema, and that's going to be a springboard for the rest of the shiur. Okay? So, first of all, I kind of mentioned that the Af and Chema are taken to be angels. If we look in the Midrash Shocher Tov, which is the Midrash on Sefer Tehillim, so on Zemer Vav, it says, Zeh shamar katuv al timna min ar musar, do not withhold from a youth, rebuke. So when you beat your son, make sure to hit him, but not that he'll die. Just instill the right amount of proper manners, but not enough that he'll die. So strike him with the staff or the rod and save him from Sheol. The idea being that sometimes you need to rebuke out of a place of love in order to, direct them back onto the right path. Okay? This was before,
1,000 years ago.
Anyway, yeah. Tova hi amardut velo be'af. Okay? But then the Midrash says it's good to, in the right circumstances to hit, but not out of anger, not with anger. V'cheinu omer yisreini Hashem b'mishpat, en ktiv ela ach b'mishpat. L'chach omer al be'apcha tochicheni, right? From Tachanun. Right? Do not rebuke me with your af, with your anger. Okay, af v'chema shnei kostarnot shel mavet. Okay, those are two agents of death, af and chema. V'chen Shlomo amar chemat melech malachei mavet. Okay, the wrath of the king are these angels of death. V'chen Moshe amar ki agorti mipnei af v'chema. I was afraid of af and chema. Chach nemar al be'apcha tochicheni. Do not rebuke me with your af. Tovim ha'yisurin. Ela she'en bi koach la'amod behen lo be'af v'lo b'chema. Right? So the Midrash on the one hand acknowledging it's good to have affliction sometimes, but not through af and chema. Af and chema I can't take. They're too strong. They're too powerful of forces. Do not rebuke me with them. Can you drink without making slurping noises? Okay. So that's the Midrash Shochet. Okay? Good. Let's look at the first Midrash that addresses af and chema as specific beings. Okay? Rabbi Yeshua patar kraya b'Yisrael. B'shah she'amdu lifnei Har Sinai, when Bnei Yisrael stood at Matan Torah, kevan sheba'u le'oto ma'aseh, so when they did chet ha'egel, lo iniach Moshe zavit b'karka ha'har, shelo nichbat alea, u'mevakesh tefila v'achamim ha'Yisrael. So Moshe did not leave any corner on the ground that he did not prostrate himself on to ask for forgiveness. After chet ha'egel, Moshe did whatever he possibly could to get forgiveness for chet ha'egel. V'lo ne'ena, but he was not answered. Right? V'nizdavgu lo chamisham alachei chabala. 5 angels of destruction came after Moshe Rabbeinu. Ketzef, Mashchit, Ashmed, Af, V'chema. Those are the names of these 5 angels. Okay? Miyad nityare Moshe mehen. Moshe was afraid of them. Ma'asa nitla b'maseh avot. So he invoked, right, zchut avot, and it goes through, the Midrash goes through a whole back and forth, skipping that. Miyad nistalku mimenu shlosha malachei chabala. Ketzef, Mashchit, V'ashmed. So through invoking the zchut avot, he was able to counter the force of 3 of the 5 angels. And nishtaru shnayim, 2 were left. Af v'chema. Hadu dichtiv ki agorti mipnei af v'chema. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu says when he's recounting the episode of Chet HaEgel, I was terrified of af and chema, specifically the 2 of them, because the other 3 I was able to get rid of through zchut avot of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Then it continues. Amar l'fanav Ribbono shel olam, yachil ana meikam b'ter vayhon, sval achad ve'anachad. Do you think I can stand against both of them? I'm not strong enough. Rather, you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you handle one of them, and I'll handle one of them. Adu dichtiv, kuma Hashem be'apcha v'gomer. Right? Stand up in your af. Uminayin she'amad Moshe be'echad malach chema. So how do we know that Moshe stood against chema and HaKadosh Baruch Hu stood against af? Shneimar v'yomer la'ashmidem l'ulei Moshe b'chiro amad b'peretz lefanav l'ashiv chamato me'ashchit. That Moshe Rabbeinu stood against this angel Chema, HaKadosh Baruch Hu stood against Af, and through that they were able to protect Bnei Yisrael from destruction. Okay? Alotah sha'ah hu omer, v'shavech ani et hamitim kegon ani v'chavorotai. Right? That's talking about how the Avot, who were already dead, were able to counter more of the effect of the angels than people who are alive. Okay? So what we have here is after Chet HaEgel, Moshe going to war, as it were, against Af and Chema. He can't take both of them, so he takes Chema on, and Hashem takes Af, and they manage to nullify their force. Okay. If we look in the Nedarim on Lamed Ben Amud Aleph, we see that this isn't the first time Af and Chema make an appearance in Moshe Rabbeinu's life. Darash Rabbi Yehuda bar Bizna, b'sha'ah shenitrashel Moshe Rabbeinu min hamilah. So when Moshe Rabbeinu was lazy with the mitzvah of milah. When was that?
For the kids. Did you wait too long to do it for the kids?
Right, on the way down to Egypt, right? Vayibaderach Amalon, right? An angel comes to kill him, and Tzipporah and takes the trap. Okay.
What was lazy that he didn't do it before then?
Right.
They weren't 8 years old.
They weren't what?
They weren't 8 years old. They were older.
Yeah.
So the Gemara in Nedarim says, "Ba'u af v'chema uvla'uhu." So what does it mean? The pasuk says that Hashem came and tried to destroy him or to kill him. So it says here it means af and chema, which are 2 angels. It's the name of two angels of destruction, 2 bad angels. They came and swallowed Moshe Rabbeinu whole. V'lo shiru mimenu el raglav. All that stuck out from them was his legs, which I think might even be a euphemism, actually, given the context. But only one part of what... We'll talk about it after. It's a good question.
If there's a big fish that eats you enough, it is?
So these angels swallowed Moshe Rabbeinu, okay? Miyad vatikach tzipora tzor vatichor elad bana. So why does Tzipora jump into action? She jumps into action because she sees that her husband has been swallowed by these angels. And she circumcises their child. Miyad vayirch mimenu. And then, that gets them to spit Moshe Rabbeinu out. And then the Midrash says, B'tah she'ah bikesh Moshe Rabbeinu l'organ. Moshe tried to kill them out of, justifiably, one would say. Shneimar, heref me'af ve'azov chema. Okay? Right? Let me get rid of af and chema. And then this is going to be critical for our analysis later. V'yesh omrim, there are some that say, l'chema hargo. Moshe Rabbeinu managed to kill chema. Okay? Shneimar chema ein li. There's a pasuk that says there, Hashem says, I don't have chema. What does it mean, I don't have chema? It means Moshe Rabbeinu killed chema back at the battle where he was fighting against the angel. So then the Gemara asks, what do you mean Moshe Rabbeinu killed chema? Is that possible? V'aktiv ki agoroti mipnei ha'af ve'achema. At Chet HaEgel, Moshe Rabbeinu was terrified of af and chema. So how can you tell me he killed chema back when he was going down to Egypt, which happened earlier? If he had killed chema, why would he be afraid of chema after Chet HaEgel? Right? So the Gemara answers, Trei chema havu. There were two different angels named chema. Okay? So he killed one of them, but there was another one. That's the one he was afraid of. The Bayit or if you want, you can say Gundad the chema, or it was the army of chema. So when he says, when I'm terrified of af and chema, he means the angel af and the army of chema that was left over. For the purposes of the shiur, we're going to just assume that it means that there were two separate angels named chema, and he killed one and the other one was still around during Chet HaEgel. Okay? So we see here there are so far two incidents of af and chema making an appearance in Moshe Rabbeinu's life. One, when he goes down to Egypt, and according to some, he managed to kill chema. According to everybody, he fought against them. And then again at Chet HaEgel, where again he fought against chema, and it's not actually clear in the Midrash there whether he managed to kill chema or not. Okay, it just says that he stood against chema. Okay, so far so good. All right. Now let's go to the problematic Gemara that will bother Tosfot and open up the rest of the shiur. So the Gemara in Avodah Zarah on Daf Dal Amunav says as follows. Rabbi Chama b'Rabbi Chanina Rame. So he raises a contradiction between two psukim. K'tiv chema ein li. Right, we saw that just now. There's a pasuk where Hashem says, "I don't have anger before me." Uchtiv nekam Hashem uval chema. That Hashem is vengeful and he has wrath. So which is it? Is it that he doesn't have wrath or he does have wrath? Right. So the Gemara answers, "Lo kasha kan b'Yisrael kan b'umot ha'olam." Which means, right, when it comes to Yisrael, Hashem is merciful and he doesn't have chema. When it comes to the nations, he does have chema. That's how the Gemara resolves the contradiction of these psukim. Okay, and then Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Amar, he just adds on, chema ein li. What does it mean that Hashem says, I don't have chema, when it comes to Yisrael? Shekvar nishbati, because I promised that I wouldn't have chema. But that in the context there, it's almost as though Hashem is saying, but if I hadn't made that promise, oh boy, would I have chema, because Bnei Yisrael really, they went the wrong way. But it's too late. I already promised not to have chema against them. Okay, so what's the problem that this Gemara presents with what we've seen so far, potentially?
But if Hashem promises something, then that happens.
Right, exactly. So Hashem promised not to have chema against Israel, so there's no chema. The Yudim don't have chema from Hashem. This angel chema doesn't have a power over Yisrael, right? Exactly. All right. If we look at yeah, go ahead.
There's two of them.
Okay, if there's two of them, yeah.
So I don't know which one is promising not to send them in Israel.
Okay, good. So if we take the Gemara in Nedarim that there's two chema, so which one is it talking about here? You're saying?
And the second one.
No, he showed up later, so...
Okay, good. So you know what? Maybe I kind of jumped the gun a bit. There's one more source that's worth looking at, which is Shabbat Nun Hey Amud Aleph. Okay, this is discussing a nevuah of Yechezkel. So Yechezkel's way later, right? Like at the times of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. So there's a nevuah there where Hashem says, I'm going to pour out my wrath on all of Bnei Yisrael for all of their sins and destroy everything, okay? So as part of that, Yechezkel sees the following in Perek Tet of Yechezkel. V'hinei shisha anashim ba'im. 6 people come, they come girded with swords, and they go out and they do a whole thing. Ve'amdu etzel mizbach ha'nechoshet. Okay, and they stood next to the altar. Mizbach ha'nechoshet, mi hava? Who says there was a Mizbach ha'nechoshet at the time? The Gemara there talks about how this Mizbach didn't exist then. Not for now. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hatchilu mimakom sheomrim shira lefanai. It means that they stood near the place where they used to sing before Hashem. In other words, start the massacre of the Yehudim from the Beit HaMikdash itself. Uman ninu shisha anashim. Who were these 6 people? Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says they weren't actually people; they were angels. Ketzet av chema mashchit mashber umechaleh. Okay, so it's the list that we saw earlier in Kohelet Rabbah, but he includes Mechaleh as a 6th one, because before there were only 5. So let's ask the question now again. And Tosfot's about to ask it. What problem do we have here, given what the Gemara in Avodah Zarah said?
No matter what source you bring up, there's the easy cop-out of either it's his army or it's the second one. So,
Meaning what?
meaning the fact that it lists him even though Moshe killed him doesn't matter because we either have a second guy like him or we have an army of his. So no matter what we get at here, there's always this cheap cop-out, it feels like.
Right. So, but then what's the problem? Because what did we just say in Avodah Zarah?
Okay, it doesn't apply to Israel.
Right. Right? In other words, you're right, and we'll see that is kind of the cop in the sense that you have an explanation for why Chema is around, right? But the problem is, how is there Chema in the days of Yechezkel, who is explicitly instructed to destroy Yisrael? Didn't we just say that when it comes to Yisrael, there is no Chema? So that's the problem, okay? And Tosfot says this explicitly. He says, Kasher Rashba, Dama b'per kamad m'sechel v'ozara, K'tiv Chema ein li, K'tiv nukem Hashem bal Chema, u'mishane kan Yisrael kan lenochem. Okay, that the difference is, when it comes to the Jews, there is no Chema. Alma de'en HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chema al Yisrael. That there's no Chema. So how can you tell me here that Chema is one of the angels that's coming and destroying Yisrael in the days of Yechezkel? Ve'hi, the Masachet Avodah Gilulin, it's Avodah Zarah, Kajda B'sofa Perek Al Nedarim, and also he says there's another problem in Nedarim, which we saw as well. Amar Chema Moshe Hargo, Tichtiv Chema Ein Li, Uparich Ve'aktiv Ki Agorit Mipnei Afa Chema Meshanit Tret Chema Havu. So he says this is a problem as well. How could there be Chema who's coming against Bnei Yisrael in the days of Chet Egel? I thought there was Chema Ein Li, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu has to kind of go against Chema, who's coming to attack the Jews in order to save them after Chet Egel, but Chema Ein Li, and there's no Chema in Yisrael. So how do we understand all of that? Okay.
Angels respond.
Sorry.
Angels respond.
Angels respond. Okay. So that's the basic question. In order to look at the answer, I think basically what I want to argue is that the answer can be found in the next 2 midrashim, and then want to develop that into kind of like a fuller answer. And then I saw that one of the Achronim and the Ein Yaakov suggested what I was coming to say, so that's a good kind of like chizuk. And then a table where we'll walk through all the different shitot of how everything fits together. Okay, so first of all. Oh, by the way, Tosfot leaves this as an open question. In other words, he says these Gemaras seem to contradict each other flatly, and he doesn't offer any solution. He just says, how can there be no Chema in Yisrael, but then there's Chema in the days of Yechezkel, and there's Chema at Chet Egel, and there's Chema against Moshe Rabbeinu. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So the first piece of the puzzle is Bamidbar Rabbah Yud Aleph, where it says the following. Right before we do that. There's another challenge here, which we saw the Gemara ask, which was, Moshe Rabbeinu killed Chema, but wait, wasn't Moshe afraid of Chema? Like, right? Ki agorti mipnei afa Chema. And then we say it's because it's 2 different Chemas. So apparently he was not afraid at all of the first one, because he was able to kill him, but he was terrified of the second one, right? But remember, that's the Yesh Omrin, okay? So there's also an opinion that says he didn't succeed in killing Chema. That he tried to, or the Gemara says he tried to kill them, and some say he managed to kill Chema. So there's an opinion that says he didn't manage to kill Chema. So based on that, you would say that the Chema that he fights against later, Chet Egel, would be ostensibly the same one, right? No, you could in theory say there were two chemas even according to that, but it would make more sense to say it's the same one. And then the question is, why was Moshe okay to chase them and try to kill them earlier, but now he's terrified of them after Chet Egel, if it's the same angel?
His lesson.
What?
Essentially learned his lesson.
Okay, good. Meaning, if you try to fight against somebody and then you're not able to defeat them and they chase you away, then you're going to be scared to fight them again, right?
It's interesting that they're mirroring this whole thing with, like, the Ravinu fought with an angel, and now they're trying to sort of put the same architect onto Moshe Rabbeinu, and then,
Yeah, I hadn't actually made the connection, but I think that might be, you're right, that might be part of what's motivating them here. Like the struggle with these angels to save Yisrael. And, Yaakov became Yisrael and struggled with an angel. There's something there.
That's what maybe it connects to the fact that they used this chut avot to nullify the other three angels, because Yaakov was able to nullify an angel.
Yeah, good. Very good. Okay.
It's the first time that we have a record of someone using chut avot, doesn't it?
Of Moshe Rabbeinu?
Yeah, that's been there probably. So.
Yeah.
How do you kill an angel?
It's not that.
Angels. These questions are too
The
hard.
Waza.
No, it's not.
We're not sure if it's possible. We
Um,
came back.
I didn't bring it here, but there's a medrash in Devarim Rabbah, which at the end of Moshe's life, he refuses to die. That he just says, "I'm not doing it."
Couldn't kill me without my consent.
Exactly. And the angel of death comes. It calls it Samael. Like it comes to take his soul. And Moshe Rabbeinu uses the Shema Meforash, the holy name, and takes a rod and beats the. It's in Devarim Rabbah and beats him away. He scares him away. He can't get near him. So he invokes some kind of
So we can't die?
No, and then eventually Moshe Rabbeinu accepts that that's what Hashem wants from him. That's the end of the
What
midrash.
does he do?
He accepts, he's okay with it because he realizes that everybody has to die. That's his. He says Atzur Tamim Po'alo, right? That God's ways are righteous and all that, and he lets the angel come and get him, but the angel isn't strong enough to defeat him there. So I was going to bring that, but it's kind of a tangent. So what? It goes on and on. It's a crazy story in Dvarim Rabbah. Yeah, it's a very long midrash.
Can we
Yeah.
learn it?
Yeah, sure.
Coming soon.
No.
I didn't bring it because I didn't see him fight Af and Chema there, so it wasn't directly related to this. But
Which malach did he scare away?
Malach HaMavet. Yeah.
How did he
with his one.
scare him away?
So that's what I just said, that he used the Shema. Hashem has the name that we're not allowed to say, the Shema Meforash, right? And it has
But we don't know
powers.
it.
Right, but Moshe knew it. Okay, so with all that background, let's learn
What
Bava
happens
Batra.
if you do say it?
We don't know it.
What happens if you do?
It's not. You're not supposed to. Only the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur was allowed to say it.
So why did Moshe say it?
It was the Kohen Gadol.
There is a shita that says that actually.
Or if you're the Kohen Gadol, so then you need to say it.
Oh, I actually don't want to be it because I'm going to be so sweaty with 8 clothes.
You think there won't be air conditioning, and then that's like.
And I get sweaty easily.
All right. All right. Okay, let's keep going, okay? Let's keep going. Bamidbar Rabba Yud Aleph. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. So remember, the question that we have is, if Chema was the same angel, why would Moshe be afraid if he wasn't afraid the first time? So Joe gave a good response,
Because it's different.
which is, right, so that's only according to the opinion that says that he killed Chema and it was a different Chema. But according to the one that says he didn't kill Chema and it was the same one, so why would he be afraid the second time? Okay. So Joe gave a good answer, which is that because when you fight against someone, you can't beat them, so you're going to be scared to fight them again. So that's one possibility, right? We'll see now. This midrash, I want to argue, gives a different possible answer. It says, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Ad shelo yichta adam, notnim lo ema v'yirah. So before a person sins, he is endowed with, awe and fear. Not that he is afraid, but that people are afraid of him. Right? That he has a certain kind of majesty and glory to him when he doesn't sin, that it causes others to be afraid of him. But once a person sins, it's the opposite. Then he becomes afraid. He gets, that stripped away from him. Now you have this idea, the Medrash doesn't say this, but after right? That Bnei Yisrael, they got crowns after Ma'amad Har Sinai, right? And then after Chet HaEgel, the crowns were taken away from them. And this idea that you have some kind of glory that you lose when you sin.
Did they see it?
Yeah. Rabbi Pinchas ben Rabbi Avin, Amar Rabbi Avin, Afas Tirsu Hirgisha Mehem ben Sha'a l'Sha'a, She'avar Malchei Tzvaot Yodun, okay? Rabbi Yudan b'Shem Rabbi Aibo, Malchei Tzvaot, Malchehon de Malchaya. So he says, Afilu Michael, Afilu Gavriel, Hayu mityarin mipnei Moshe. So Moshe Rabbeinu, even the greatest of the angels, the kings of the angels, Michael and Gavriel, were afraid of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's how great Moshe Rabbeinu was. Kevan shechat'u, but once Bnei Yisrael sinned at Chet HaEgel, right, and Moshe was affected by that, bigolirin shelahem, which means even the lowest foot soldiers amongst the angels, lo haya Moshe yachol listakel. Moshe couldn't even look at them because of how far he had fallen due to the sin of Chet HaEgel. Hado dichtiv ki agorti mipnei ha'af v'achema. Right. So the idea is that Moshe Rabbeinu, before Chet HaEgel, when he was free of sin, or Bnei Yisrael were free of sin, and they were kind of at that status, so he was greater even than Michael, Gavriel, that he was able to look them in the eye and even defeat them, as it were. But once Bnei Yisrael sinned, even the lowest of the angels he wasn't able to defeat. And who were they? Af Chema. So how does this answer the question, in addition to Joe's answer? Right. Now, another way to answer is to say, back when he was perhaps in Midian, so it was before the sin of Chet HaEgel, he had the power to defeat Af and Chema. But after Chet HaEgel, Chaf and Chema are suddenly more powerful than him because he has this Eiman Yirah that were taken away from him and instead thrust upon him. He can't even look at them anymore.
It's not you, it's me.
Right. No, it's a good question. That no one asked. He didn't do Chet HaEgel. Why is he punished? But be that as it may, he was affected by it. Okay, so that's another answer.
If he would have done it, then he wouldn't have had power at all. The power to do that.
What do you mean?
If Moshe would have also done part of Chet HaEgel, would he not have been in the status to be there at all?
Oh,
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, probably. And then, so that's one thing. And then the second question we want to ask is, right, the Tosfot's original question, which is, how can I say that if there's Chema, no Chema for Yisrael, so who's this Chema in the days of Yechezkel? Who's this Chema in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So, again, you gave an answer before that there's multiple Chemas. And we'll see it in the table in a second. You can extend that to give an answer. But this next medrash, I think, also gives another possible answer, where it says as follows: Keshe Yisrael osin ritzono shel makom, ein chema lefanav. Shnemar chema ein li. U'kshe'en osin ritzono shel makom, kivyachol chema lefanav. Shema v'charaf Hashem. It's a very easy answer. Essentially, it says, when the Gemara says that there's no chema for Yisrael, that's when they're doing Ritzon Hashem. And when they're not, then there is chema. So it qualifies the Gemara in Avodah Zarah. If I say that, then surely in the days of Yechezkel, or right after Chet HaEgel, when chema suddenly shows up, they're not doing Ritzon Hashem, so chema does have power over them. It means just when they're doing the right thing, so there's not going to be this power of chema even when it's not warranted. So it kind of qualifies the Gemara in Avodah Zarah.
Like you parallel to the previous medrash, before they stand and after they stand.
In a sense, yeah. In a sense. But it's a little different, just because it's not really about the chronology of an event, but yes, it's saying that there's a difference of Chema's power in one versus the other, right? But you're right, it's a similar idea. So, just we'll conclude here with the Avad Eitan and then kind of go through the table here at the end. So the Avad Eitan is a commentary on the Ein Yaakov. So he says, right, Amav Chista Ketzev Av Chemar. Chista said there are 6 angels in the days of Yechezkel. So he says, "Ein betosfot shiksha Rashba the Beper Kamed Avodah Zarah the Kamer Ein LaKadosh Baruch Hu Chema Yisrael." Right, that's the question we asked. V'yesh lomar. What does he answer? To Rav Chista dehacha. When Rav Chista says that Chema was one of the angels that stood against Yisrael in the days of the Churban, Svir lekedida betanchuma b'shalach kishe osin ritzoni Chema ein li ein osin ritzoni v'charaf Hashem. Mashma de kishe ein osin Yisrael ritzono shalet b'hem gam Chema. Right, which is exactly what we just suggested. That he basically says that it's Rav Chista must hold, if he agrees with the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, he must also hold like this medrash in B'Shalach. I want to argue now there's another way to resolve it, and that's in the table here. So, basically, I want to make the following claim. Right, we saw that there were 2 midrashim, one in Kohelet Rabbah and one in Nedarim, of Moshe battling against the angels of Af and Chema. Right? And we saw explicitly in Nedarim that one opinion says he kills Chema, one opinion says he doesn't. And then in Koil Rabba, he stands against Chema. It's not really clear if he manages to defeat or kill Chema or not. Okay, so you can make from this kind of like a tree of four possibilities, where it could be the first time Moshe encounters them, he kills Chema, and then the second time he encounters them, he kills Chema again. The other extreme is that he doesn't manage to kill Chema the first time, he doesn't manage to kill Chema the second time, or something in between, that he kills the first time, not the second time, or he doesn't kill the first time. So if I want to kind of go down any one of those paths, so what does that mean in terms of the rest of the Midrashim that we saw? So first of all, in that third column from the right, it says, so we know there's a Chema in the days of Yechezkel. Which one was it? So if Moshe didn't kill Chema in the first battle, and he didn't kill Chema after Chet HaEgel, so you can argue that there's really only one Chema that spans this whole time, right? Because Moshe didn't kill him during circumcision, didn't kill him Chet HaEgel, and this Chema is attacking Yisrael in the days of Yechezkel. You can make that claim. But if Moshe killed Chema either in the first battle or the second one, you have to invoke what the Gemara Nedarim says, that there were multiple Chemas, right? And say that there's another Chema in the day, according to Rav Chisda, there's another Chema in the days of Yechezkel. And if you want to argue that he killed Chema in both, you have to say that there was a third Chema, right? Because he killed the first one, and he killed the second one, and then you have another Chema in the days of Yechezkel.
Or it's the armies.
What?
Or it's the armies.
Or,
Then it's plural.
yeah, right. Or the armies, but yeah. And then in terms of the two questions we raised. So the first question was, why was Moshe afraid of Chema after Chet HaEgel, but not when he was circumcising his son, right? Or when Tzipporah circumcised his son. So Joe's answer of, because he failed the first time, he fought against him, and he didn't manage to defeat him, so then he's afraid the second time, that is an answer for if I say that he didn't manage to kill him the first time, right? But if he did manage to kill him the first time, then you have to say he's not afraid because there's a different Chema, because the Gemara says that explicitly.
What if you think you killed somebody he's standing in front of you? It's still concerning.
What?
If he killed him the first time, then he sees him again. Whether he killed him or not, it's still concerning.
What's a different?
Well, but if I killed Bob and then I see Bob
but
again after I've killed him,
yeah.
fine. But like you kill something that's in front of you, like that's
Still- you're
reason,
still afraid?
It's still reason to be scared. Like it's still legitimate. Like
In such you could say, I did it once, I could do it again.
Right.
or okay, so,
So yeah.
Right. You could even argue based on like when it says that he went to kill Chema the first time, doesn't mean he wasn't terrified. It just meant he still felt they needed to kill him.
Yeah.
Right. The Gemara says though, but wasn't he afraid later? Oh, it's two different Chemas, which implies that that's the answer you need to give. But also what I want to argue is that the Gemara that the Midrash that we saw in Bamidbar Rabbah, that after a sin, you lose that power against the angels, that answer would work according to any one of these permutations, right? That Moshe would be afraid. I don't have to invoke that there were multiple Chemas. I don't have to invoke, because he lost the battle the first time, so he's afraid the second time. I can just say the difference between the first time and the second time, regardless of any of that, is that he's afraid the second time because Bnei Yisrael sinned the Chet HaEgel, so he lost that power, okay, or that fear. And then in terms of the second question, if there's no Chema against Yisrael, so why was there a Chema in the days of Yechezkel? So here you can either answer that it's another Chema, right? So just taking that idea of two Chema. So again, I wrote it out here in the box. If Moshe killed Chema back during the circumcision and killed him again after Chet HaEgel, and then in Yechezkel there's a Chema, but we say, but the Gemara of Avodah Zarah says that there's no Chema over Yisrael. There's only Chema over the Umot HaOlam. There's two different Chemas, so then you have four Chemas, right, altogether. Or you can say that there's only three or two, but again, I think the easier answer is like the Avarei Tan says, which is the answer to that question is simply to qualify the Gemara of Avodah Zarah to say, as long as Bnei Yisrael are doing Ratzon Shel Makom, there's no Chema, but when they're not, then there is Chema, and that answers according to any one of these permutations as well. So again, just to conclude, last sentence, the only reason we need to construct this table is that we're trying to make all of these midrashim fit together, right? But you don't have to assume that. You can just say that, okay, there's a tradition that Moshe fought against Chema, before he went down to Egypt, and there's a separate tradition that he fought against Chema and Chet HaEgel, and those two don't necessarily need to be reconciled. But if you want to try to reconcile all the ones that we saw, these are the possible ways to do it, invoking the midrashim that we saw here at the end. Yeah. All right. Shkoyach. Okay, so we'll take a break next week for Hashem. I'll see you guys B'at Hashem during the Aseret Tshuva.
Great, now we can talk.